The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. H.P. Lovecraft. This quote shows why visual mediums often struggle to capture the essence of Lovecraftian horror. Despite this challenge, Zero End attempts to preserve the enigma, the realm of the unknown. Yet can it truly maintain a grip on the mysterious allure of Lovecraftian horror? Let's find out. Hello my fellow degenerates, my name is Billy and welcome to the AVN channel's review of Zero End Chapter 1, available on Steam, Itch and Patreon. This is the first of what I believe will be a 4-chapter series. It's a Lovecraftian paranormal mystery romance focused visual novel, with a clear influence from such things as Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, among other World of Darkness media. Think of it as the World of Darkness and H.P. Lovecraft, and then being a dick all had a threesome and this spawn was the result. I will warn you that this will contain some spoilers for Chapter 1, so proceed at your own risk. And if you have played the game, let me know what you think about it down below. Do you agree with me? And more importantly, let me know who the best girl is. Stick around to the end to find out who mine is, and for more content like this, subscribe and ring that bell of degeneracy.
I can't believe this story you're telling me. It's macabre.
Zero End is a narrative veiled in mystery, yet at times this veiled allure becomes its own undoing. Whilst I do relish in the allure of compelling mystery and harbour a deep fondness for Lovecraftian themes and those evoking the essence of the King in Yellow and the mystique of cultic phenomena, there exists a delicate balance between preserving intrigue and leaving the readers adrift in a sea of uncertainty. Regrettably, Zero End teeters precariously up on this threshold, akin to a tightrope walker without a safety net. Seriously, get a safety net, this guy's about to fall. We play as Caleb Watson, a budding magician whose sleights involve more than just pulling rabbits from hats. We're talking about delving into the depths to cast spirits into the abyss and slaying demon princes. Yeah, figure that shit out then, Penn and Teller.
We didn't even know how you vanished the
spirit.
Surprisingly, our MC discovers that he's been accepted into a college he's never applied to. Intrigued by this twist of fate, Caleb decides to attend in hopes of unravelling the mystery behind his unexpected acceptance, only to be dragged unceremoniously through the hedges of horror. In Chapter 1, we arrive at the college and quickly meet some wonderful friends who become an integral part of our lives, get roped into investigating a murder, because well, the police don't get paid for that apparently.
Wait, you guys are getting paid?
And then plan on taking on a cult. All in 2 days. 2 days. Caleb's profound attachment to the people he encountered might lead you to believe that they've been lifelong companions. He's willing to lay down his life for them despite only knowing them for less than 48 hours. The girls he encounters express a deep admiration for him, while he speaks of his friend Brandon, as someone who'd have his back and isn't afraid to call him out. But let's just pause and remember, it's been 2 days. Yes, 2 days. While I appreciate the desire to dive straight into the narrative and forge quick connections between characters, even the protagonist acknowledges how brief the time frame has been, claiming the game focuses on romance and then depicting profound love in such a short span leaves it to feel rushed. Meanwhile, the game is cloaked in mystery, leaving us in the dark about the MC's backstory beyond the current events. While we're given drips of his past, it's not enough to truly invest us in his character. He often labels himself as a monster, alluding to this supposed badness, yet without any context. It's hard to understand why. I'm not suggesting a scrolling wall of exposition, but a bit more insight into the protagonist would be appreciated. He speaks of his ex-girlfriend's formidable magical prowess, someone who we encounter later on in the story, and how he learned everything from her, yet when we hear her speak about him, she paints him to be the most powerful magician. But who are these people? What are their backstories? I sure as hell don't know. Do you? But we can see the influences from Lovecraftian themes, but in a Lovecraft story, we typically grasp the main character's essence. We're privy to their perspectives and possess enough insight to relate to them, despite how crazy they are. However, Caleb remains a mystery. While this approach can be effective for an antagonist, maintaining an air of mystery and gradually revealing their complexities, it falls short for a protagonist. If you expect me to invest in Caleb, allow me to know him, understand him and relate to him. It feels like the narrative is trying too hard to be mysterious, like an edgy kid at school. It thinks that people are intrigued by his mystique, but in reality, Alex is just a weirdo nobody pays attention to until he shows up with his dad's gun.
Little Alex got a gun he took from his dad that he snuck in the school in his black book bag.
What frustrates me most about this game is that it's undeniably interesting and well written. However, I struggle to muster the emotional investment in the characters because I just don't know them. The strangers on the train, let's plan a murder, and this is made harder by the fact that the main character isn't us. We are not embodying him. He's telling us the story, and if we can't bring ourselves to care about him, I can't care about the characters in the story, and if I can't bring myself to care about the characters in the story, I find it hard to care about the story itself. Indeed, while this is only the first chapter of a planned 4-chapter story, one would expect the characters in the world to be reasonably established by now. However, the main character remains elusive, and so does the world he inhabits. We're given scraps of information about the supernatural world, but nobody bothers explaining the basic rules for it. How do these magicians even get the powers? Is there a Hogwarts for wannabe wizards? Nah. Instead, we're just thrown into a college where everyone seems to be a card-carrying member of the paranormal club. She's a psychic, she's a succubus, she's something, and he's well drunk, but his sister's a succubus. Oh, and don't forget about the vampire hunter and the witch. The entire college is essentially a porthole for the supernatural, but it's not a college for supernatural beings. But despite this chaos, everybody acts like ghosts and ghouls are just part of the daily grind. It's like they're all in on some cosmic joke and we're the only ones left scratching our heads wondering what the f*** is going on. Once again, I feel like it's just another shortcut akin to the relationships being formed in 2 days. If everyone we encounter is already in a loop, then there's no need to waste time explaining things when they catch us face in a spirit with a spectral rave sword. And honestly, I want to see more of this kind of stuff. The paranormal stuff, that is, not the face of the spirits, no thanks. But the paranormal stuff, the cults and the supernatural mysteries, is like a Lovecraftian dream come true. I mean, Howard Phillips himself would be proud. But here's the catch. Lovecraft was a master at leaving things to the imagination. He'd drop a few hints about some eldritch horror lurking in the shadows, and your brain would conjure up something far scarier than anything he could put on paper. But in any visual medium trying to channel Lovecraft, they've got to show you the goods eventually. And let's face it, the things that go bump in the night are never quite as terrifying once you see them up close. I mean, just look at Amnesia, the game's terrifying experience, seeing the shadows in the distance and hearing noises in the dark until you lay your eyes on the monster, and then it's just like, oh, is that it? And that's the tightrope this game's walking on. Caleb's out there calling himself a monster so naturally, we're all like, why? What's he done? Tell me more. But if they take too long, our imaginations are going to run wild. And where that might be a good thing when thinking of Olivia Newton-John at the end of Grease, it's not for horror media. Ultimately, it leads to disappointment. Ironically, that's the same thing I said about your mother.
What the hell is going on around here? Who the hell are you people?
Anyway, with all this talk about characters and relationship building, what are the actual characters like? As per usual, we're going to start with the MC. Meet Caleb Watson, a young man in his 20s who unexpectedly finds himself accepted into a college he never even applied to. Well, here's a twist. Caleb's no ordinary student, he's a magician, basically a wizard.
You're a wizard, Caleb.
However, Caleb is far from your typical protagonist. Picture the embodiment of edginess, as if the main character from Hatred took a detour into a visual novel. He frequently calls himself a monster, but we don't know why yet. Regardless, he's an amateur magician, but sometimes he's also a really dangerous magician. I don't know, I don't think they've actually decided yet. What we do know for sure though is that at the beginning of the game he's a virgin and he enjoys indulging in a smoke because that's what the cool kids do apparently. Honestly, beyond that information we don't have much. The game gives us a little history, so honestly there's no real character development so far because we don't know his character to start with. And besides, there's only one real Caleb in gaming.
I live again.
Alice. She's the first girl we encounter in a college. And strangely, she already knows us. She exudes a quirky and upbeat demeanour. It turns out she's a seer of sorts, with the ability to glimpse into the future, but her gift's a bit more complex than just mere prophecy. When we asked how she knows the MC's name, she admits uncertainty. It's as if she's perceiving fragments without the ability to assemble them into a coherent whole. She recognises the MC but remains uncertain whether it's from actual acquaintance or just her power. Each time she bids him farewell, she tells the MC she loves him. Initially I dismissed this as just another eccentricity of a personality, but I actually suspect that her declarations are stem from her role as a potential love interest who actually perceives all the paths within the game that we have open to us, which is peculiar, often lost in her own little world and seemingly unaware of what others are perceiving. Though perplexing, Alice's character is compelling, and I can't actually wait to see what future updates bring for her. Rain is the next noteworthy character of her college journey. She wastes no time in making an impression, offering to engage in some rather intimate activities involving the MC's Mah-jong tray within the first few moments of meeting her. If AVNs have taught me anything, it's that this seems par of the course for college life, or so it appears. I really should have gone to college. Rain is a hot goth girl, so that's a win. However, her allure goes beyond her appearances. Rain harbours not a split personality but rather two distinct personas coexisting within one body, like two sides of the same coin. One of these personas is a succubus. Despite the unusual circumstances, a close friendship forms between the player character and Rain, and her brother. Should you pursue Rain's storyline, by day 2 she's already practically telling Caleb she wants to spend the rest of her life with him. What is it with this B-Tech looking Jared Leto and women? Kira bursts into the scene, confronting us with an accusation, our uninvited acceptance into the college. Despite our attempts to clarify the misunderstanding, she remains skeptical, opting for a physical confrontation as her method of discerning the truth. I'm not sure how this proves we are being truthful. If that was the case, Law & Order would be a total different TV show.
Naomi again, working together as a double team, turning their attention to Tamina, Asuka, and Naomi and Tamina take it down again.
As her layers peel away, Kira reveals herself to be as another denizen of the mystical realm. A hunter, not your ordinary prey like deers and cougars, but vampires and other supernatural entities. Selena emerges as a witch belonging to a distinguished clan, assuming the role of a student representative within the college. She serves as a beacon of guidance, offering advice and upholding the institution's rules. Or maybe Sean does that with the MC because she wants a bit, because edgy is the new sexy.
I'm bringing edgy back.
Despite her facade of intelligence and innocence, Selena grapples with an internal conflict stemming from her duty versus her personal beliefs. While she recognises the necessity of enforcing the rules, her compassionate nature recoils at the potential harm it may inflict upon others. And again, I'm interested in where this goes in the future, especially if we take the MC down her path. Brianna epitomizes the classic geek in the streets, freak in the sheets archetype, presenting herself as a vulnerable individual seeking companionship and protection from past experiences of bullying. She extends an offer of friendship to the MC and accompanied by the request of safeguarding, with the promise of indulging in some games of Mah-jong as a token of her appreciation. But there is something about her, and that's not just me saying that, Caleb does it too. However, a notable misstep lies within the game's handling of the player's choices, particularly in a scenario where the MC must decide between spending time with Brianna and pursuing an encounter with Alice in a forest. Opting for the latter prompts a response from the MC suggesting distrust towards Brianna, which is not my reason behind this decision. In reality, their decision to meet Alice stemmed from the desire to unravel the mysteries of surrounding the forest, rather than any ill will towards Brianna. Anyway, Marie, or Victoria, is what I believe to be the final main girl in this chapter at least. This is your ex-girlfriend, and the MC believes she is the reason he is here and that she serves as a linchpin surrounding the entire mystery. At this point we aren't sure what her plans are or whether she can be trusted. All we know is that she and the MC once had a close bond, and through magic means she cut them ties. She's the one who initially labelled the MC as a monster, and the fact that she utilised magic to sever her ties suggests that the MC really did fuck up. However, the specifics on this wrongdoing remain elusive once again, leaving the player in the dark. As you can probably tell, Brandon isn't a girl. However, he does present a potential for a gay route, adding a bit of diversity for the game's narrative. While it may not align with everyone's personal preferences, offering such options expands the game's appeal and provides play with greater agency in shaping their experiences. His admission to a past sexual encounters with other men, coupled with a playful banter regarding the MC's own experiences, hints at the possibility of exploring romantic connection between Brandon and the MC. But we'll have to wait and see if that avenue is explored. But about his character, he, so far, has little involvement in the supernatural world besides the fact that Rain, his sister, is a succubus. So, He's aware of it, but does not actively take part in it beyond caring for his sister. It seems he's got a troubled past, but he's really good at fighting and doesn't stop drinking. Like he's really trying to forget something. And that's it for what I'd consider the game's main characters so far. Although there are other characters in the story, I'd say they currently play very minor roles. It's worth noting that this isn't a harem game. Despite the opportunity of interacting with multiple women, eventually a point will likely come where you need to make a choice. This adds replay value and the potential for deeper relationships that ideally require more than just a couple of days to develop. Following visual novel standards, our choices shape how the girls perceive us and whether we can pursue them or not. At one point I wasn't able to spend time with any of the girls and had to choose to progress the story. This could be due to a decision that I made early in the game that influenced these events. So as you can see, a lot of the characters are interesting. Each of them are unique with their own personalities as well as their abilities and purpose in the supernatural world, and to me, them and the premise of the game are the saving grace.
And one of the great things, all of this just works.
In this visual novel, choices play a crucial role, influencing the direction of the story and determining which characters you spend time with. These choices are tied to a skill mechanic where each decision increases a specific skill. Certain options become available based on the level of these skills. While reminiscent of the affinity system in Being a Dick, this mechanic differs by involving multiple skills, rather than just a simple good-bad bar. However, there is a good-bad bar, influenced by choices, though its impact on the story's outcome remains to be seen. Overall, this basic RPG style skill system adds a bit of depth and complexity to the gameplay's experience. Another mechanic in the game is a puzzle system. At one point you're tasked with solving 3 puzzles. This is a great mechanic to use, works well within the medium and helps add a variety and break up the story. However, the puzzles themselves were flawed. The first is fine, click the dots in a certain order, simple trial and error, but the next 2 are not actually solvable within the game's limits. Do you know what a pigpen cipher is? No? Then yeah, that one's out the window for you then. Also, have you read the book The King in Yellow by Robert W. Chamber? Most normal people probably haven't. So, that's the third puzzle gone. Unless you're a fucking nerd like me, these puzzles won't be solvable without the help of Google at least. Luckily for me, like I said, I am a nerd. To be fair, if the genre and style of the story is your thing, then you will most likely have read The King in Yellow, but unless it wasn't recent, you may not have remembered what the game is asking you for. It's just pure luck that I actually got the audiobook for The King in Yellow about 2 weeks prior to playing 0N to listen to on my commute. If that wasn't the case, I would have been hitting up Google for the answers as well. Ideally, the game should provide all necessary information within its own framework, ensuring that the players can solve the puzzles without relying on external sources. It's a matter of game design and maintaining consistency within the game's universe. After that though, you do have a free roam section. You have to investigate a house. Certain areas and options are available depending on your skills, and you must succeed without raising the alert meter too high. This is the very easy part. I got 100% without a problem. The only issue I had was not being sure on where the arrow would take you. I clicked forward to the door just to end up stood next to said door with it on my right and a person standing there. This tends to be a problem with a lot of visual novels. Navigation can be a bit confusing and disorientating depending on what the renders are shown to you. Games like this should really have like a Resident Evil style minimap to show you where you are, and when you want to change rooms you can click the next room on the map instead and the arrow just serves to explore your current room. That's not just a remark on this game but any visual novel's exploration. The best part about all this though is that on your second playthrough you can skip the puzzles and the free roam exploration. You start with where you left off last time, so if you 100% it the first time, you can just end the free roam by going to the correct location the second time. There's also a small mechanic in the scene where a power's making it so your character wants to hurt somebody, and a mouse jumps about the screen and you have to try to click don't hurt them, but it keeps jumping to hurt them. I like this, as when these games say the MC loses control, you just void your choices, but this gives you a chance to actually fight for that control. Small, simple, but it really works and I really enjoyed this mechanic. This is a shining aspect of the game. What paths and seeds you get really depends on your skills. You can make the same choice in 2 different playthroughs and get 2 different results depending on your skills or selected god at the beginning of the game. I didn't realise there was lewd scenes for a certain girl until I was quickly grabbing a few screenshots for the review. I randomly selected a god and and that ended up changing some of the results of the choices I had before. This adds a lot of replay value to the game, and really made me notice how much work has gone into the story and the branching paths.
So I'm a pretty boy?
How does the game look? It seems that while the visuals of the game are decent, they may not stand out compared to others in the medium. The darker and drearier tone of the renders align with the game's theme, but there can be a lack of variety to that tone. Introducing more diverse environments could potentially enhance the overall experience and prevent visual fatigue. Additionally, the heavy use of depth of field might be detracting from the clarity of the backgrounds, making them appear blurry and indistinct. Backgrounds can indeed add depth and character to the scenes, but in this case, they all seem to be overshadowed by the focus on just the characters. I have to admit though, I'm quite fond of the characters, especially the female ones. While the protagonist comes off as a brooding emo kid, the girls stand out in a refreshing way. They don't all conform to the typical standards of beauty that's seen in adult visual novels, and that's precisely why I like them and find them so appealing. Unlike the usual drop-dead gorgeous stereotypes found in many of these games, these characters feel more authentic and relatable. They don't just resemble models fresh off a Playboy shoot or an Instagram feed, instead they exude a uniqueness that complements the game's theme perfectly. Now, I was pleasantly surprised by the UI design as well. Typically I am not a fan of text boxes because they can obscure the scene, but this one's different. It's clean and doesn't clutter up the renders, and what's even better is the icon on the left side serves as a button, providing you access to the MC's stats and more information about the game world. The UI is well executed and the characters' names are clearly defined and the text is easy to read, enhancing the overall user experience. Animations on the other hand are non-existent outside the lewd scenes.
Sometimes if you listen very carefully, you can hear my genius.
The music in the game is on point, and it really fits the theme of the game as well. Honestly, the type of music may not have been everyone's preference, but it is very fitting. Other than that, there's not much else to be said about the music, but here are some pretty good examples. Regarding sound effects and ambiance, I can't recall many sound effects. There were some, but not too many. There are scenes where they could have greatly enhanced the experience, a fighting scene involving Brandon. However, there are ambient noises in certain parts and it suits the scenes very well, yet there are instances where I feel like they could have been utilised more effectively. For instance, when walking through the creepy forest at night, instead of just heavy winds, I would have liked to have heard crows in the distance, a scuttle of vermin in the underbrush, and the ominous presence of the unknown lurking behind the trees. It's supposed to be a scary atmosphere. Let's make it truly immersive.
My, aren't you a naughty boy?
Now to the degenerates' favourite section, the lewd. There are a few scenes in this chapter, some that seem to be there for the sake of it, and some that are there as they are relevant to the character's past. The quality of these scenes is alright, featuring standard loops, but they appear to have been rendered at a lower resolution compared to the game's still renders, resulting in pixelation. Additionally, there are no sound effects accompanying these scenes. If you were to remove the scenes from the game, it wouldn't adversely affect the story. They currently feel like most of them are there for the sake of boobs. Again, the game's description mentions about being a romance story, but these scenes don't seem like they're necessary. They're not a negative, but any lewd scenes added at this point just add to the rush feeling of the relationship. What does bother me, however, is the not safe for work tag. It appears like a spoiler, as I prefer to discover these routes myself. Additionally, despite being an adult visual novel, I prioritise the story over these lewd scenes. If I solely wanted adult content, I have the world's largest database of adult content known to man at my fingertips. The internet. I wouldn't be playing these games if I just wanted to see that. The story comes
Raising boom!
first, and I feel if I choose this path, it's not for the story.
You like her very much. She's different. In what way? In every way.
Alright everyone, it's that time again. Who's the lady of the hour? Who's the best girl? Well, this time around, it's been a tough decision. Not because all the girls are outstanding, but because we haven't really had a chance to get to know them properly. After all, this is only chapter 1. So, I'm basing this choice off who I believe has the most potential to become the best girl, and that girl has to be Alice. Our psychic little pixie. She's undeniably the most captivating character in the game. The mystery surrounding her and the knowledge she possesses without understanding why, it's all incredibly intriguing. Although she isn't heavily involved in the main story yet, I have a strong feeling that she'll play a significant role, especially with her powers eventually. Besides, her upbeat positive demeanour is a breath of fresh air in this dark world, adding a delightful juxtaposition that's truly refreshing.
Whoop-de-doo! What does it all mean, Basil?
To summarise, this game shows promise, but falls short in its portrayal of relationships, feeling rushed for the sake of plot rather than focusing on romance as claimed. However, the plot itself is intriguing, leaving me eager for future content. The characters are compelling, each with their unique traits and personalities, and their non-standard appearance is a refreshing departure from the typical AVN models. While the visuals aren't exceptional, and the heavy use of depth of field can be excessive, the music is fantastic and it complements the game theme so well. Ambient noise is utilised effectively but could be enhanced, and there's a lack of sound effects, even in the lewd scenes which, although not stand out, don't detract from the overall experience. My verdict? Well, at first I was going to say give this game some time to cook, but after a few extra runs I've realised how many possibilities and routes there are in the game. But while the game displays promise and both strong writing, it does still fall short in a few areas. However, it is only chapter 1 of 4, indicating there is plenty more content to come. Also, at the current price on Steam, it feels like you're going to get a good amount of content for the cost. I just hope in future updates a lot more focus is put on developing the relationships. I know it has to focus on the main story, but it is meant to be a romance focused visual novel, so let's focus a bit on that romance. That said, the developer appears committed to improving the game, which gives me hope for its future, and I'll be keeping a close eye on the progress of this game. And in conclusion, just remember, what the fuck was the 70s?